you for your endurance.
Good to be here.
I want to take you in a slightly different direction and actually ask you to help me solve a great mystery, at least to me, in the market rate housing area. And my premise is that while the wheelhouse of HUD is in affordable housing, we will never be able to deal adequately with that, or will be hugely complicated in our effort to deal adequately with that if market rate housing is not working correctly. And I find that there is a great disconnect between supply and demand. What do I mean by that? Well, we know that supply is not keeping up with demand because home prices are increasing at rates significantly greater than the consumer price index. We know that, for example, the amount of time on market, what a realtor would call the inventory, is way below equilibrium in many markets. In the county I live, it's less than 60 days. In the next county, it's less than 60 days. That means that there is more demand than supply. And I cannot understand why it is supply is not moving faster to keep up with demand. Now, the way I look at this is that there are three basic elements that go into this. There are three basic inputs. If I'm missing one, correct me. If I don't understand any of this, please correct me. I'm just looking for some wisdom or insight as a housing expert. The first is dirt. Do we have enough available land to build on? We know that that can complicate it if there's an excessive regulatory environment, but we also know that in cities like Dallas in your home state, which are very pro-development zoning areas, or even Seattle, which is generally considered a pro-zoning, a pro-development zoning construct, that there's a considerable problem. That it cannot be that there's excessive regulation such that dirt is overly constrained. There's financing, which is, of course, broken down for both the acquisition, construction, and development side as well as the homeowner side. And then there's labor. Do we have enough people to pound nails to build new homes? So there's nothing that we know about the data of these three elements that would help me understand why supply is not keeping up with demand. So, Mr. Secretary, am I leaving something out? Am I not understanding the data? Why isn't it the case that we are building more homes faster than we are? What am I missing, sir?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that, number one, particularly coming out of the Great Recession as we have been, that you have a confluence of challenges, particularly with the first two that you mentioned, with respect to land and local regulation, but also financing. We do, as you mentioned, focus particularly on affordable housing. And I can tell you that with respect to the supply question on affordable housing, that if I could do one thing, it would be to figure out a way to make those numbers work in more instances. And that's why I mentioned earlier, for instance, expanding the low-income housing tax credit. The administration has also been very clear about the need for local governments to look at their regulation and to strike a good balance between being as friendly to reasonable, good development as possible and also protecting their other interests. In the budget, we included a proposal for something called local housing incentive policy grants that would basically incentivize local governments who do a good job of sparking more supply, including for affordable housing, to get some federal investment to say, hey, you're doing the right thing. You should be doing more of that, and to set an example for other communities. And you know, the importance of this cannot be overstated. I read a very fascinating article, for instance, a few months ago about Toyota's decision to move their North American headquarters to the suburbs of Dallas because of the lower housing costs there. And so they're doing that, of course. You have a lower housing cost there compared to other places. However, what's also happening in that North Texas area is that it's normalizing as compared to other markets of that size, and you're getting more people in there, and so they're facing this question that you've posed of a lack of supply, both for affordable and for market rate. And I think it's tied up into the first two issues that you mentioned. We don't have any magic solution to that, but we do think that there are smart investments that can be made that will spark more supply. And those are some of the things that we've suggested along with the Treasury and in our budget.
Thank you, sir.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Rothfuss.